without much ado, we maybe set the ball rolling. He's a Vice Chancellor of the Technical University of Kenya, Professor Francis Ajuo. DVC Administration, Planning and Infrastructure of the Technical University of Kenya, Professor Joseph Kiplongat. Members of the TUK Management Board, plus the entire TUK fraternity present here. The keynote speaker, Professor Joe Amadi Echendu. The four guest speakers, Professor M.H. Halil Timami, who is the coordinator of projects, research and development, Pwani University, Kilifi. Dr. Nicholas Ozoro, the executive director, Africa Technology and Policy Studies Network, based here in Nairobi. Mr. John Matogo, University Relations Leader, IBM, in East Africa. Professor Raphael Toots from KU Leuven, Belgium, and Director, Program Division of the United Nations Human Settlement Program. Other distinguished guests present here. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First, I wish to take this earliest opportunity to welcome all of us to this 4th Technical University of Kenya organized international conference, whose theme is innovation and technology for societal transformation. We all know what technology is about. And the essence of this conference will actually lie around this. It will be important to see, hopefully by the end of this 3 days conference, what technology is meant to do, and particularly for developing countries like Kenya and many others within the African continent. Like I said earlier on, I think we are starting a little late. So I will take this opportunity, therefore, to invite Professor Francis Ajuo, the Vice Chancellor of the Technical University of Kenya, to officially, make his opening address and officially declare this conference officially open. Welcome, Professor Ajuo.
Professor Echendu, our chief speaker this morning, you have seen already that Professor Echendu is coming to us from the University of Pretoria. Professor Timami, Dr. Ozor, John Matogo, and Professor Toots. Professor Toots and John Matogo, I think they are not here because I have not met them. They are going to be our other keynote speakers this morning. Deputy Vice Chancellors who are here, Professor Shun, Professor Kiplamat, and our professors present today, members of staff of TUK, and all the distinguished guests who have found time to come and be present with us this morning as we start our 4th TUK conference. Good morning. It is obviously a great opportunity for me to be able to speak to yourselves this morning as we start our 4th conference of the Technical University of Kenya. We have, for the last 4 years, consistently held these conferences in various venues in Nairobi. I think it's the first time we are coming to this place. And I remember when we started with the very first one, it was either the first or the second, we were in South Sea, and we didn't have an audience this large. And I expect that this hall is eventually going to be full. When we started that time, we had a small group of people, and we were not very sure that even what we were doing as the Technical University of Kenya would be sustainable, because we were a very young university. We really didn't have any serious culture of doing research. And I remember when I was asked if we should hold the conference, I was very skeptical whether it would work, because we were just beginning the journey of being a university. I think that was 2014. And you will remember that we were chartered as a university only in 2013. That we should be here today looking at our fourth conference, and with this attendance and expecting even a big attendance is a very big achievement to those people who have been responsible for organizing this. And I really want to extend my appreciation to the research department headed by Professor Fiona Bai, who has made it possible that this should work at all. She has invited to come to speak to us some very distinguished people. Professor Echedu, I'm sure you are going to be told something about his profile, but I remember my first interaction with him should have been in 2016. I think it was in 2016, he came for a conference in Nairobi, and he was introduced to me by Professor Fiona Bai, and I thought that when we are having our next conference, we should be able to invite him to come and speak to us on issues of technology in Africa. And then Professor Timami may be known already to some of you. He's a professor at Pwani University, but Timami has done very many things. He's an economist and taught for many years at the University of Nairobi before he took up a job with UN, I think AU in Addis. And I know him for many years. When I met him many years at the University of Nairobi, he reminded me that when he was a young undergraduate in the university, he sat in my class, and I was not in economics, so I was very curious to find out how he ended up in my class. I learned that he came to study engineering at the university, and after a while, he thought that that was not one of the most attractive things he ever wanted to do in life. So he went to Chiromo and studied geology. He's actually a geologist in Chiromo. And then thereafter studied economics. When I was in the Department of Economics as a student, I think you were in Addis. So I was always looking for you so that we could, because eventually I also became an economist through your inspiration. So, but by that time you are not there to encourage me. So he is, and he has written a very, very, very nice book on economic development in Africa, and with a strong focus on technology, which I invite many of you to find and see. I don't know whether the book is available in the bookshop, but you need to be very patient because the book is this thick, and read it. Dr. Ozor has been a very good friend of our university, and if the librarian was here, she would have told you that he once donated to us huge cartons of books in the library. He came brought us cartons of books, and courtesy of himself, there is a corner in the library of books that were brought to us by himself. So these are people that we have worked with very closely. I'm looking forward to meeting John Matoko and Professor Raphael Toots. Ladies and gentlemen, the university, as initially conceptualized, was a place of general learning. We were supposed to go to university and get general knowledge. And that is what the medieval university was about. You were supposed to learn how to live in life, just how to carry yourself along in life. As the modern universities came along, beginning with the University of Bologna in the 11th century, teaching at universities became a little bit more organized, and universities started giving degrees. But the focus was still learning to understand how the world works. And there were masters and teachers who taught you what they knew. And you went out and hopefully you also multiplied that knowledge in whatever way you could. In between, there were people in the universities that also focused on research. But research was not very organized. Many of the things that you learn about in the philosophies happened in 16-something, in 17-something, and they were based on researches largely by people who were in universities. people were already being awarded higher degrees in the universities based on research. But this did not get formalized until the beginning of the 19th century. At the beginning of the 19th century, it was realized that there was no meaningful university education, and especially extension of knowledge, that could take place without the unity of learning and research in the university. This was promoted particularly by a gentleman called Wilhelm von Humboldt. Wilhelm von Humboldt was an educationist and a philosopher in what was then known as Prussia, which eventually became what is known today as Germany. The capital of Prussia for a long time was Berlin. And out of that, the Humboldt University in Berlin is named. He had a younger brother who himself was a scientist, a naturalist, called Alexander von Humboldt. And many of you have benefited from Alexander von Humboldt fellowships, usually organized by Germany. Now, Wilhelm von Humboldt said, there is no way you can hope to teach students new things if you are not engaged in formal research as a university. And that is why today universities are involved in research formally. That model that was created at the beginning of the 19th century by Wilhelm von Humboldt spread across the entire Europe to the Western Hemisphere and the Americas in general. And today, universities are measured largely by the quality of research that they produce. When people talk about the ranking of universities, for example, they are looking at your productivity in terms of research, and then they are looking at the way you teach. But teaching, unfortunately, in the modern university is taken for granted. It is expected that if you're a professor, you will be teaching. So we don't, as a university, put a lot of weight on the teaching of a university professor because that is taken for granted. As one of my colleagues expressed at the University of Nairobi, that teaching in promotion in university, for example, teaching can only be used against you. It cannot be used to support you. It can only be used against you to the extent that it is established that you are not a good teacher. Then it will be used against you. Otherwise, it is taken for granted that everybody who is in the university is a teacher. And that is why we are called doctors, and that is why we are called professors. I'm sure many of you know that the word doctor itself derives from teacher. The meaning of doctor is teacher. That is how it started. And so from there on, the distinction between us as scholars in the university and as universities is measured by our productivity, how we impact on society, apart from the formal teaching that we carry out. And that is why research becomes important to us. A small university like TUK, this becomes even much more critical because we have to stamp our presence as a university that is known by other people, by the quality of work that comes out of us, in terms of research, in terms of general scholarship. And that is why already, immediately we were chartered as a university, we thought that it would be a very good idea that we have an annual conference so that we as a TUK fraternity and other people from other universities in this country and even beyond can join us in a properly organized conference where we talk about anything. Because this is one of the very unique conferences where everybody in the university can come and you find your space. We're supposed to talk about everything and anything that is considered to be scholarly. Part of the reason for that, and Fiona Bai will tell you, we have agreed with her that we need to formally promote the younger scholars that we have in the university. Because it's a growing university, many of you will appreciate, we have recruited very large numbers of young people as graduate assistants and as tutorial fellows and as assistant lecturers. And even as lecturers who have just obtained their PhDs. And one of the ways in which we believe that you can be best mentored as people pursuing scholarship is coming through a conference like this, so that you see how other people make their presentations and carry out research, and you get the opportunity to be critiqued by your peers and your seniors. That is the way you grow in scholarship. So young people, this is your opportunity to learn how things are done in a university. And I invite you that you take advantage of this opportunity in a very serious manner. Because tomorrow, you are the people going to have to show other people how to carry out research. I have noted that very deliberately, and if you look at the list of areas of interest in this document, there is a huge number of papers that is going to be presented, covering virtually everything. And Fiona has just indicated to me this morning that at some stage, we're going to have breakout sessions so that you can be able to discuss a little bit more intelligently the various topics in terms of areas of bias. I understand that you're going to organize yourselves into social sciences on one hand, that is arts, humanities, and the social sciences, and then there's another group that will be dealing with the physical sciences and technology and related things. Now, at the end of this, I expect that this time we are going to produce this into a proper booklet. I asked Fiona what happened to the conference of last year, because there were also very many papers delivered like this, but unfortunately, it was not produced. And that is perfectly in order. There is nothing wrong with that. But for the purposes of putting together the theme and the concept of the conference, we have agreed that this year, these papers are going to be published together. If there is anybody who wants to publish their papers separately, perhaps you will do a version of it and publish it separately. To those in the TUK fraternity, I would like to encourage you to intensify your efforts in research. I don't know how many of you take time to check out on the ranking of universities that comes out every 6 months. I don't know whether you people pay attention to that. In Kenya today, there are only about 6 or 7 universities that get ranked consistently in excellence in research. I think in the last ranking there could have been 9. It is University of Nairobi, it is Kenyatta University, it is Moi University, it is Egerton University, it is JKUAT, that is 5, it is Maseno, it is Masinde Muliro, and I think the Catholic University also gets ranked. That is just about 8. There could be another university I've missed out. Those are the only universities. If you look at Metrics ranking, you look at the last column, which is marked excellence. It is just about 10 universities in Kenya that get ranked in excellence. There are 3 other columns that rank all of things, including
how beautiful your website is. That is, I think your website, which I think is called Presence. Of course, I'm exaggerating it. It's not just beautiful, but it depends on the material you are putting there. Then there is something to do with openness. Openness means how information about our university, especially scholarly information, is available to other people. And then there is a column on impact. Impact is the extent to which people outside of ourselves value us. And that impact is measured by how many people are connected with us. People are only going to, listen to this, people are only going to be connected with you because there is impact you have on them. So they measure, as a surrogate for measurement of impact, they measure how people are connected with us. Kenyan universities do well in those three areas. They're doing well in presence, they're doing well in openness, especially University of Nairobi is doing very well in openness. Between openness and presence, I don't know which one, you will be shocked. University of Nairobi was ranked in the last ranking in January as number 4 in the world. Number 4. One time they were ranked number 30, we thought that was fluke. But this time, I think they were ranked at number 4 in one of those. Impact, so-so. In excellence, still I think in the top 1,000, but not very good. TUK and many other universities in our generation, the ones that were created in 2012, 2013 and thereafter, we are not yet even blinking in research. We are not. So if you see the ranking, there is a number like 5,250. You see, they rank according to where you are worldwide. So if it is say 5,227, you will find that is the worst number you can get. So there are thousands of universities there. If you are not blinking in research, you have 5,000, maybe 227. Now TUK is in that category. I understand that one of the reasons that is happening is that currently, the current ranking in research is based on things we did in 2014 and 2015. They have not come to the things we did in 2016 and maybe 2017. So when they come there, I hope we will begin to blink. And so I'm encouraging you people. It is, if people are going to take our university seriously as a serious university, we have to do research. As things stand now, the best universities in the African continent in terms of excellence are found in South Africa. And if you're looking at excellence, almost the top 10 universities in Africa are in Southern Africa. You get 1 or 2 universities in Egypt, somewhere in between them. But everything is coming from South Africa. It tells you that these are people who are investing a lot in research. There is no difference between yourselves and people in South Africa. There is no difference between yourselves and people in the US. Because when I look at you here, we all went to the same schools, honestly. We all went to the same schools. So what happens to us? It is important that we pay a little bit more attention to research in this country in general. Our ranking in research in Kenya is not very good. Again, for TUK people, there is another thing we have noticed, and I'm using this opportunity because I never have a chance to speak to you on this kind of thing except in Senate. Many of you are publishing brilliant articles, but for some strange reason, you always put an affiliation to another institution. You are at TUK, but your affiliation is to another institution. And we have some evidence to this effort. So we are going to have to take up with you people whenever we detect that you are publishing, but you are giving credit to another institution. It means that you are not loyal to our institution, And so we wonder why we should keep you on our payroll. And so we are going to have to, because you see, that is the only credit the university can get. You publish a great paper, and you should know this. Countries have almost gone to war because of academic credit, isn't it so? You have read stories where countries have, especially in Europe, in the early days, in Europe, people almost went to war because a particular country was taking credit for certain discovery that was at another university. Just a few years ago, our own University of Nairobi had serious trouble with the University of Oxford when they started research on HIV/AIDS. This was at the beginning of the 2000s. I don't know how far it ended, but it was such a serious issue that the matter was almost going to court because people are now looking to patent some knowledge. And Oxford insisted that they wanted to take the lion's share of this, and the University of Nairobi was not going to allow this to happen. So knowledge is very important to any country and any institution like ourselves. So when you do your publication, make sure that this is properly credited. Even if you worked in 2 institutions, you are allowed to do so, because tomorrow one of you is going to go to work with Professor Timami in Pwani during sabbatical. It is expected that when you credit this, you will credit that you were at Pwani University working with Timami, but you also belong to the Technical University of Kenya. This is important to us in terms of giving credit to the university. So I want to conclude by once more getting back to our keynote speakers this morning. I really want to thank you that you were able to find time at all to come and be present with us at this conference. This is something we are trying to nurture, and we are not a big university, Professor Ichendu, so probably we are not going to give you a lot of credit when you go to Pretoria and you say, I was at the Technical University of Kenya, then people will ask you, what is that, which is that? But I want to tell you something. We are a very small university. You have been to our campus. I think we are the smallest university in the land in terms of physical size. 8-point-something acres of land, but we are not exactly as small as people think, because we also have 15,000 students there. We have one of the strongest complement of professorates among the younger universities in Kenya. These people you see in front of you here are really very clever people. And they have been properly selected to come and work and teach at TUK. But there is another thing which many people from Technical University probably don't know. I think we selected a very good name for us, the Technical University of Kenya. There is nothing selling us bigger than our name. Anybody anywhere in the world, they hear the Technical University of Kenya, they say, I want to go there, because they believe that that is where all the technology in Kenya is residing. That, of course, is not exactly true, but as far as I'm concerned, when they come in because of the name, I always try to sell you very well and create an impression that this is the best thing that ever happened to this country in recent times, and I believe it. So again, in terms of our name, you will be surprised when you go to South Africa. They will tell you, we have heard about the Technical University of Kenya. So I thank you very much for finding time to come. And Professor Timami, welcome home in a way, because the Technical University of Kenya is in many ways part of your former university at the University of Nairobi. We grew out of the University of Nairobi as a polytechnic, and many of you already know this story. And then when we became a university college, we were a constituent college of the University of Nairobi. So, and many things that are happening at the Technical University of Kenya have been influenced by the culture of the University of Nairobi, which you are familiar with. I'm so pleased that you were able to find time to come, because when I was talking to Fiona, I really didn't know where to find you, and Fiona did everything possible found you and asked you to come, and you were gracious enough to agree to be present with us. And Dr. Azor, we always will cherish your relationship with the institution. As I said, he just came to me one time and he said that I would like to create some cooperation with yourselves as the Technical University of Kenya, and we started on some project. Eventually, the next time he came, he said, now I've got so many books I want to give you. These are people who are working to promote our institution, and I ask you that we should give them maximum support so that we can work together with them. As I said, I am looking forward to meeting John Matogo and Professor Raphael Toots. Then I will be able to extend to them my own personal appreciation for making it possible even to be with us at this conference. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I understand that I'm supposed to say that it is now my pleasure to declare this conference open. So, Fiona, I should have liked to open something like this, but now I'm just opening heavy. So thank you very much. Good. I've just been introduced to Mr. John Matogo. He's University Relations Leader, IBM in East Africa. And I had a suspicion when I saw somebody at the end that he was most likely going to be John Matogo, and especially when I saw IBM East Africa, I was expecting somebody at his age, which just looks right for something like IBM and the University Relations Leader. What I don't understand is how come we have not had interactions with yourself, because you are doing university relations. So you are at the Catholic University where IBM is? Yeah, so what we are going to do, Fiona, I think from here, we are going to have to find time with him. I'll not be able to have a cup of tea with you today, but we are going to make arrangements so that this can work, because I've always wished that we should do something with IBM, which is based at the Catholic University, and I will be very pleased that we should do something together. Most welcome, please. Thank you.
Without much ado, it's now my pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker to address us and basically set the tempo of this 4th international conference. And this will be given by Professor Joe Amadi Echendu. But before I invite him to address us, I shall make a few introductory remarks about the professor. Professor is shaking his head, and I'm assuming the way he's shaken the head connotes what I think it is. And I'm saying this because at one time I was interacting with some colleagues from the Asian nation, and I learned that the way you shake your head may mean very different things to different people, including this meaning yes, whereas I was imagining it is something between yes and no, and turned out that that was not the case. Nonetheless, Joe Amadi Echendu earned his Bachelor's of Science and Master of Science degrees in Electrical and Electronic Engineering from the University of Wyoming, USA, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Control Engineering from the University of Sussex. Dr. Joe Amadi Echendu is a Professor of Engineering and Technology Management at the University of Pretoria in the Republic of South Africa, and is the founding director of the Institute of Engineering Technology and Innovation Management at the University of Port Harcourt in Nigeria. Professor Joe Amadi Echendu has over 12 years work experience in industry, plus over 20 years of academic experience in the United States, in the United Kingdom, Nigeria, and South Africa. His extensive experience and interests cover the broad fields of engineering and technology management, with particular emphasis on the management of intellectual assets. His current teaching and research activities are focused on engineering asset management and technology commercialization, as well as technology-based commercialization. I'm sure this is something that will be very important and significant for us as the Technical University of Kenya, for those of you who come from that institution, and you probably know why. Professor Joe Amadi Echendu has published over 150 articles in journals and accredited international conference proceedings. He is a registered professional engineer in both the United Kingdom and South Africa. Now, just taking note of his shaking his head earlier on, I think I'm probably going to save him embarrassment of the achievements that he has actually gained over this period of time by basically saying, it is now my pleasure to invite a professor, and the title of his presentation is The Role of Technology in Societal Transformation. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you very much. First, I think the oldest university in the world recorded is the University of Fez in Morocco. Now, I know why I point this out. It's in Africa, just in case you didn't remember. And it took quite a number of hundreds of years before Bologna in Italy started. In fact, Bologna started essentially because of, the decay of the Roman Empire, and law was the main thing. I also want to take on my elder brother here, elder brother in the sense that he's wearing the Vice Chancellor's hat and I'm not. But I just want to point out a few things before I start thanking him for letting me be here, before I forget them. Professor Mbai, if you wish to publish this, we have the African Journal of Science and Technology and Innovation Development, of which I'm an associate editor, so there's a possibility there. So just offering you that very quickly. And also very, very quickly, we have some books. I will try and make sure that we send you some books so that I steal the highlight from my brother, Dr. Oza. and can I then say, the young shall grow? Yeah? Shall we take that on board? Okay. Having said all that, I want to thank you guys for really letting me be here, especially Professor Adul. When my wife and I came for the UNCTAD conference in 2016, we visited your campus and met Professor Konditi, hosting us on behalf of Professor Mbai, who was away at that time. And then we were invited to the office of Professor Adul, and he really made us feel very welcome. And for the period that we were here, my wife is not a very good person in terms of fish, but we made sure we ate the snapper and ugali. And when I arrived last night, that was the first thing I did. So I didn't quite enjoy it in this hotel because the real one tastes better out there. But anyway, I hope that I will do that later on. So that's how we got on board, and he tells us that he will invite us to the professors' meeting. But this is nicer. So some of the things that I'm going to say this morning, I'm going to provoke you. I'm really going to provoke you. If you're a professor, you can't stand in one place and give a political address. So I'm sorry you have to move around. So some of you who are used to seeing formal things, right, in that sense. So I'm going to, and I'm not going to be very, very orthodox. I'm going to be very, very unorthodox. This is what I was supposed to speak about, the role of technology in social development. That was your letter, Prof. But then I see it's supposed to be transformation, societal transformation. And the letter that I received said I must speak for 20 minutes. I don't know how I can do this in 20 minutes. I'm sorry, there's too much to do in 20 minutes. So I'm going to fly about, okay? Because there are two broad aspects here. Let me unpack the title a little bit. The role of technology. Well, technology is not human. So something that is not human cannot play a role. Am I making sense? It's only human beings that have that character, right? So that means we're not talking about technology, we're talking about us. So first word there, the role. That's why I put it in red. It's not about technology. I'll come back to the end and say it's not about technology, it's about us. Then we have this thing called technology, and of course most people expect me, having an engineering background, that I will talk all this tech language, tech buzz. The one that I want you to just pay attention to is the word disruptive. In society, there's a feedback loop here. I'm a control engineer, so no surprises for the feedback loop. I don't know if those of you there, yeah, you can, so if I point to this one, I'm also pointing to that one. Okay. Sorry, let's go back forward. Societal transformation. Ooh, that takes me completely out of my depth. Because as an engineer, I talk different. Now I'm supposed to talk about this. So that's going to be a bit challenging. We have these things called capitalist society, which seems to be not so emphasized these days. We're hearing more about socialist in the past, but we're seeing this integration between that. And of course, for us Africans, we are actually a humanist society. So in trying to bring technology and societal transformation, let's bear some of those things in mind. Now, the reason why I'm pointing out some of these things is, for those of us who are academically minded, we need to understand some of these constructs, because they're very important in making sense of what we're trying to say. Where are we heading to? I don't know, but I'm hearing those words now. I'm sure some of you have seen. Yeah? It's no longer called digital society, it's called digitalization. It's a new word. And for those of you who use your published dictionary, the paper dictionary, it's actually, it was already outdated by the time you had it on your desk, because new words are coming on board. So there's the new word called digitalization. Are we moving towards that? And how is that coming back? So we're looking at these sort of things. These are the sort of words that are beginning to appear. Emerging socio-technological transformation. Oh, so it's not just a transformation of society, it's also a transformation in technologies. So we've got this whole thing happening. That's the context that I want to set. We're dealing with emerging socio-technological transformation. And not just one transformation, but a host of them. And I will explain as I go along. As academics, you know, there's always somebody who knows something about what you're saying. So I went looking for who else has talked about this. And I found this book. I'll give you more detail on it, but it's just, and can I suggest that maybe that's one thing we should be hoping for, Professor Dole? Just as you talked about my colleague here, maybe we should be looking towards putting something together like that for TUK. So that you take this particular title of the conference and make it a book, so that we can all contribute. The title that we have here is, he says, Technology for Societal Transformation, but it's focusing on India. So can't we do that for Kenya? Can't TUK take on that? You want to put yourself on the map? Why do I say that? If we're going to transform society, we have to give society something upon which to bank on. I think Professor Dole in his introduction was saying, what is your impact? So can we start looking at something like that? So that's why I implored him to please stay back, because he has to somehow support this and fund it. There's enough brains here to produce something like that. Okay. Let me take a few quotes from that. Does that look like Kenya? Is there something there that looks like Kenya? It's a little worse. Okay. I didn't want to put up statistics for Kenya because I'm here in Kenya. Kenyans will put up the statistics for me. Okay. So I didn't want to get into trouble. Okay. But if you look carefully, there's something there that's very similar, isn't it? Yeah. I take the next quote. Is that motherhood statement? Most people believe that is true? Okay. All right. Oh, so can you see where I'm going? It's not about technology. It's about us interacting with technology to do something. And then the last one that I took there, now this is beginning to sound more political. So Professor Doyle, I'm only echoing some of your words. So these are some of the things that I picked out of that. So what I did in preparing for this, when I received the program, I had already prepared what I was going to say. When I got the program, this was 2 days ago, I said, nope, now I'm supposed to open up this whole thing. That means I'm supposed to provoke everybody. So I had to find ways of provoking everybody. Some of you I haven't touched yet, but I will get there because I'm looking at your faces. Okay. I like the last part there. Isn't that something that resonates with Kenya in the last how many? Yeah? Okay. All right, let me stay away so that you guys can let me fly out of your country. I also visited, so now I looked at India. Why India? I'll come back. Then I also looked at Germany. Why Germany? Because I know that you have a very strong relationship with Germany, but more importantly, they're part of the very developed world, isn't it? There are large parts of India that look like us.